My wife said she needed space. 2 days later, I found her at a resort with the man who was at our wedding. I'm a 34-year-old man, and 2 days after my wife asked for space, I watched her laugh by a resort pool with a man who clinked a glass at our wedding and told me I'd won the jackpot. She tossed her head back the way she only does when she feels safe. The sun hit her engagement ring. His hand rested easy on the back of her chair like he paid the bill for the weather. Her name is Claire. We met 3 summers ago over a broken espresso machine at a bookstore cafe, 2 people apologizing to a barista like that could fix the day. She liked that I remembered birthdays. I liked that she could turn a to-do list into confetti. We married last spring under ivy and rented chandeliers. My mother cried during the vows and said she'd never seen me look taller. The man by the pool, his name is Nathan, stood beside my best friend during the speeches and slapped my shoulder like a teammate. He was an old friend from work, Claire said, her voice light, the way people talk about furniture that followed them from a previous apartment. The space conversation happened on a Tuesday, the kind of day that melts into its neighbors. We'd both worked late. Dinner was toast and scrambled eggs. She cleared plates with too much care. I'm drowning in noise, she said, voice soft, palms flat on the counter. Work. Calls. Everyone wants a piece. I need a weekend to be quiet. I asked if she wanted company. She smiled, tired. I love you, she said. I just need to miss you a little. It sounded reasonable the way lies do when dressed in self-care. I offered to set her up at her sister's lake cabin. She said no, cabins smell like childhood obligations. A hotel then? She said she'd figure it out. She kissed my temple, absent-minded, like a person who's already packed. Here's what I didn't do, I didn't snoop. I didn't map her friends. I didn't stand outside doors like a ghost. I washed dishes. I folded laundry. I went to bed early and woke at 3 a.m. with my heart doing the marathon alone. In the morning she hugged me longer than usual. Back Sunday, she said. Don't wait up. The first hairline crack was stupid and ordinary. Our streaming service sent a "welcome to your stay" email because I'd left my login on her iPad. Location: Pinecrest Bay Resort, 2 hours south, the place with the pink umbrellas and cocktails that take 3 verbs. I stared at the subject line until the pixels shook. I told myself she booked a spa day and wanted pretty towels. I told myself people can be married and also be alone by a pool for 48 hours without the world ending. Then my phone buzzed with a loyalty points notification from a travel app we share. Enjoy your platinum upgrade at Pinecrest Bay. The reservation name, C. Whitman Plus Guest. The Plus Guest reached me like a cold hand on the back of my neck. I still didn't drive. I wrote an email to a client and read it back and heard nothing inside it but underwater noise. I took a shower and didn't remember turning the water off. I moved through my apartment like a person rearranging pillows after a storm. At noon my sister, Sophie, texted, "Lunch? You free?" I wasn't but said yes because Sophie has a sixth sense for my jaw. At the sandwich shop she slid me napkins and asked without asking. I told her the facts: space, resort, upgrade, guest. She didn't gasp because we come from a family that keeps reactions small so the air doesn't break. She said, "Do you want to know, or do you want to wait?" I said, "What's the difference?" She said, "How long you hate yourself." I drove. The highway felt like it had been lengthened overnight by people who enjoy jokes. Pinecrest Bay looked exactly like the brochure: palm print cushions that never see rain, staff who call you by name without looking at cards, couples who wear linen like a religion. I parked far from the entrance because stealth lets you pretend you're not doing a thing you'll regret. I didn't have a plan. Plans are luxuries. I had suspicion and shoes that weren't made for creeping. I walked past the boutique where you can buy a sun hat for the price of a tire. I reached the pool and told myself I'd turn around if I didn't see her in the first sweep. On the second sweep I caught the shape of her shoulders and the way she tucks hair when she's laughing. Nathan sat opposite her in an unbuttoned shirt that said "This is a lifestyle." He lifted a glass. She tapped hers. The light clink touched something inside my ear that's attached to years. I took a picture because memory forgives what you want it to forgive. I could have walked up. I could have performed honesty like a sport. I didn't. I sat in the shadow of a planter and watched two people enjoy an afternoon they believed was theirs alone. She touched his wrist when she made a point. He leaned in. A server brought sliders. She took the pick out of hers like skewers are arguments. I counted to 100 and then drove home in a silence that was not noble, just empty. At home, the apartment smelled like her shampoo and my hesitation. I went into the office and pulled out a folder I never thought I'd touch, the one with screenshots of small oddities whose totals I didn't want to do. An Uber receipt to Linden Hotel when she'd said she was at her mother's. A dinner charge at a place near Nathan's office the night I'd worked late. A text from a number saved as Derm, Laura, that read, 7:30? I'll get the corner table. I don't like detectives. They're people who choose a life where everything can be a clue and none of it can be a day. I put the folder back. I called Mark, my best friend, who believes in three things: torque wrenches, direct questions, and leaving when a room becomes an argument with itself. He listened and said, "You can be wrong or right and still need the same thing, a conversation." She came back Sunday night smelling like mint and salt. She put her bag down and hugged me hard, then caught herself and turned the hug into a pat. "I feel human again," she said. I asked if the space helped. She said it did. I asked where she stayed. She said, "Little Inn on the coast, no Wi-Fi, it was bliss." She said it like improvisation. The lie didn't arrive with apology. It arrived dressed as simplicity. I was holding the picture of sunlight on her ring. I didn't show her. I asked if we were okay. She frowned with concern like I'd confessed to headaches. "You've been tense," she said. "You need a hobby that's not anxiety." I said I'd work on it. She kissed me, slow, then pulled away and checked her phone. "Don't spiral," she added and went to shower. The next morning I woke to her phone ringing with a specific insistence, the sound someone chooses for a person they want to catch. I don't open other people's secrets for sport. I glanced at the screen the way you look at the sky to decide if a walk is a good idea. It said, "Nathan, work." The second word was the old fig leaf we had both agreed to cultivate. I decided to stop being a man who lets rooms be written by other people. I drove back to Pinecrest Bay and requested the restaurant receipt for research, because money is the only thing hotels will gossip about. The hostess looked at me like she'd been told the script for this exact scene. "I'm sorry, we don't release guest information." I said the wrong thing in the right tone, something about a lost wedding ring, an insurance form, a manager's name. She sighed and printed a slip with everything redacted except the meal total and the last 4 digits of the card. They were the last 4 of my card. I had added Claire as an authorized user last year because trust looks like convenience until it looks like a bruise. I sat in my car and did the math of insult. She'd used our card to book her space and their lunch. The resort had my name under the plus guest. I imagine if I hadn't driven, I would have later put my head on the pillow she'd just used and told myself marriage needs faith like bread needs heat. Then, because the universe likes timing, my phone buzzed with a calendar invite from Claire, dinner with Nathan plus team, Thursday, work. She had added my email by accident or habit. The restaurant was the same place where we'd celebrated our engagement. I called Sophie again. She said, "You can still confront without detonating yourself." I asked how. She said, "No speech. No projector. 3 sentences. A question he has to answer. A request she has to refuse. She knows my capacity for monologues that excuse cowardice." Thursday came with the usual weather. I arrived 10 minutes early and took the back booth where you can see people become who they think they are when dining out. Claire walked in with Nathan and two co-workers I recognized from a holiday party. She smiled when she saw me, real smile, surprised, then quickly rearranged her face like a person walking into the wrong meeting. Nathan's expression did a small arithmetic of charm and irritation. "Hi," I said, standing because my parents raised me to be decent even in rooms that aren't. "Didn't think I'd make it. Calendar invite." I held up my phone, the adult version of a hall pass. Nathan stuck out his hand. "Good to see you, man." He always calls men man when he's filing you with other people he's escaped being. Claire said, "We're just catching up on a project," and her eyes asked me to be the kind of man who values narrative neatness over memory. I said the 3 sentences Sophie approved. "Did you spend the weekend together at Pinecrest Bay?" I asked Nathan, voice even. He blinked once. "We had overlapping plans," he said. The lie was an athlete, it didn't even breathe hard. "Why did you use our card?" I asked Claire, showing the redacted slip. She said, "I can reimburse you," like the math was the moral. "Will you stop calling this work?" I asked them both, not loud, not quiet. The co-workers suddenly needed the restroom. Nathan said we should discuss this, like adults, elsewhere, which is what people say when they prefer rooms with no witnesses. Claire's phone lit up on the table, the notification banner read, "Room 323 ready for early check-in." She flipped it over with a motion I'd seen for months, a practiced, gentle denial of light. I didn't do a scene. I did a leaving. "I'm going home," I said to Claire. "If you want a husband, you know where to find me. If you want a secret, you already found it." She called after me, "Don't be dramatic," the oldest trick in a tired book. Outside, the air felt unperformed again. At home I didn't pack. I set boundaries with a pen because it writes slower than adrenaline. I opened a new account and moved half our savings because love with receipts can survive rooms that feelings can't. I made a list of what I needed to say when she came home and a separate list of things I wouldn't say even if begged by the part of me that thinks dignity is a tax you pay to keep the peace. I put the photo from the pool in a folder named, "If I Doubt Myself," and then I put the folder in a drawer because I didn't want to become a man whose spine requires evidence to stand. She came home at midnight, quieter than usual, an apology velcroed to her face. She started with the obvious, "It's not what you think." Then the defense that always follows, I needed someone to talk to who wasn't invested. Then the switch, "You've been distant." I said I'd been distant for 2 days, the days she spent at a resort with a man who told me at my own wedding that love is choosing the same person on purpose. She teared up, which used to make me step closer. Now it made me sit down so I wouldn't leave and make her write about me. "I messed up," she said. "But it's not a betrayal. We didn't," she paused and chose a phrase, "cross lines." I pictured the pool, the chair, the hand on the chair, the glass. We talk about lines as if they're painted and not penciled in by the person with the stronger grip. "I don't care about your verbs," I said. "I care about the nouns, room, card, lie." She asked what I wanted. I said, "A phone you face up. An end to work when it's not. Counseling with someone who doesn't let you narrate me. A choice you make where I'm in the room." She said yes to the first 2 and promised to think about the third, which told me where the real danger lived, not the resort, not the restaurant, but the habit of building days that don't require my shape. She slept in the guest room. I slept in the marriage like a person holding a bowl with both hands and hoping mid-century ceramics survive gravity. The next morning, my inbox held a message from an address I didn't recognize, Elise from accounting, who'd been at dinner, who has watched Nathan's charm turn into a workplace anecdote too many times. "I'm sorry," she wrote, "there's something you should see." Then a screenshot, Nathan in a group chat called Team Napa, making a joke about R&D offsite at Pinecrest, with a winky face and a photo of the same pink umbrellas that had reflected off my wife's ring. The timestamp matched the weekend. Under it, Claire's reply, be nice. Then a heart. Elise added, I'm not proud of sending this. I'm also done feeling like silence equals loyalty. I forwarded it to myself in case I ever again thought I'd overreacted to the word space. Then I sat at the table and wrote Claire a letter she could hold without performing. I love you, I wrote. I don't love this version of us. I won't finance it. Tell me the true nouns. Then we can fix verbs. She read it that night without commenting, like a person in a museum who doesn't want to set off an alarm. I'll go to counseling, she said. Tomorrow. Pick someone. She said it as if choosing a therapist is like choosing a salad. We went. The counselor had soft chairs and a way of saying that made thoughts grow. She asked Claire to describe space. Claire said quiet, healing, autonomy. The counselor asked me to describe space. I said whether you used to move furniture without the other person noticing. Claire said that was unfair. The counselor asked how often we tell the truth when it makes us look small. Nobody spoke for a while, which in that room counts as talking. We set homework. She would write lists of the places she felt tempted to lie and the places she lied without noticing. I would write lists of the places I choose politeness instead of accuracy. We would try to meet in a middle that wasn't a performance stage. The next week was careful and almost kind. She left her phone face up. She texted photos from where she said she'd be. She said goodnight at times that matched clocks. She cried twice in a way that didn't ask me to fix it, just asked me to sit close enough to feel the heat. For a moment I believed momentum. Then Nathan sent me a message, man to man, which is always an email category that should come with a hazard warning. He wrote that I was over-indexing on optics, that Claire deserves friendships that don't require approval, that I should consider how my insecurity looks. He attached a photo of the two of them at a charity 5K last fall, his arm around her shoulders, my name written on her bib because I'd paid the entry. Underneath he wrote, we're all on the same team. It felt like someone patting my head and asking me to clap for good sportsmanship after stealing the ball. I didn't reply. I printed it. I put it in the drawer with the pool photo because I'm trying to build a curriculum for the part of me that forgets. 2 days later, Elise sent me one more message, a calendar invite titled, Room 323, Saturday, sent from Nathan to Claire, accepted with a heart. That was the day after our third counseling session, the one where Claire had told the counselor she wanted a clean slate. I realized then what my sister meant by question and refusal. The question is, which life do you want? The refusal is, not the one that requires me to be my own ghost. Saturday morning, Claire stood in the kitchen pouring coffee that smelled like a normal future. I set the printed invite on the counter. She stared at it as if the paper could be convinced to apologize. It's not what it looks like, she said out of habit. Then she added, smaller, I don't know how to stop doing the thing that makes me feel alive. Which thing? I asked. She didn't answer. If it's choosing a secret version of yourself, you already know, I said. She put the mug down. Do you still want to be married to me? She asked, not defensive, just a person checking the map. Yes, I said. To you. Not to this. She nodded. She picked up her keys. I'm going for a drive, she said. Alone. I watched the door close. I realized I had finally asked the right question. The answer would arrive, one way or another, before checkout. She didn't come home that night. She texted at 10:13 p.m., I'm at a hotel. I need to think. No address. No photo. I wrote, okay. Be safe. Then I turned off the light and listened to my apartment pretend to be calm. Morning brought a kind of clarity that felt borrowed. I made coffee. I wrote my list again, what I would not do, drive around, call Nathan, become a character in my own humiliation, and what I would do, tell the truth, set my boundary, protect my sanity. I called Sophie. She said, whatever happens, you come out of this with a spine you recognize. That's the only prize. At noon, Elise texted, you don't owe me anything but I saw something. Screenshot, Claire, 8:02 a.m. to Nathan, not today. Nathan, you'll regret letting him police your freedom. Claire, it's not about him. Nathan, everything is. The thread scrolled with a self-portrait of a man who thinks the world is a reflection. Elise added, he's been warned at work. It won't stick unless the room changes. I wrote back, thank you, and meant it for more than the pixels. Claire came home Sunday at 5 with eyes that looked like she'd watched her own movie and hated the ending. She sat at the table and touched the envelope with our counseling homework as if it could take a temperature. I didn't meet him, she said. I almost did. I went to the parking lot. I sat there for an hour. Then I realized I wasn't choosing between you and him. I was choosing between honesty and whatever this is. She gestured at the air like the word wouldn't sit still. I don't know how to stop being a person who needs a story, she said. I like rooms where I'm the most interesting sentence. With you, I'm a person who has to do the dishes and be on time. With him I'm glow. She grimaced at the word. That's embarrassing. It's honest, I said. Glow is a kind of light. It doesn't heat a house. She laughed, small and real. I hate that you're right. She slid her phone across the table face up like a truce. I'll call HR tomorrow, she said, voice steady. I'll tell them enough. I didn't ask what enough meant. Enough is a door where before there was painted wall. We went to counseling the next day and told the truth without performance. Claire said she had a habit of staging intimacy because applause is easier to manage than love that wakes up with morning breath. I said I had a habit of letting rooms be written for me because conflict makes me feel like I'm 15 again asking a teacher for an extension. The counselor asked what we'd do differently on the worst day. I said, leave sooner or stay more bravely. Claire said, tell the truth at the cost of my favorite costume. The call to HR happened in a conference room where a plant tried to look alive under fluorescent lights. They listened. They asked careful questions. They thanked her for coming forward. It was not a movie. Nothing exploded. The world kept emailing. The next day Nathan messaged me man to man, again with a different tone, this is harassment. Back off. I didn't reply. HR did. He was put on leave, pending an internal review. He posted a photo of a sunset with a caption about haters, which made me wonder how we survive irony. Consequences were not cinematic. They arrived like mail, slow, inevitable, stamped. Claire came home earlier. She kept her phone face up. She cried less and talked more. We learned each other's calendars like we were extra credit. She quit the group chat that turned office gossip into sport. She also went quiet sometimes, staring at a wall like it owed her an apology. She made lists of the lies she told to manage expectations, and brought them to counseling like homework she hated. She texted Sophie amends and left Mark a voicemail to thank him for the time he pulled me out of a bar with kindness instead of advice. I told my parents in a calm voice, the one I save for breaking gentle things. My mother said, we can love people at their worst without naming their worst as love. My father said, do you need me to move a couch, because men like him offer muscles when words sit weird. 2 weeks in, Claire asked if we could have dinner with her mother. Her mother is the kind of woman who can refold a fitted sheet and a narrative. We ate roast chicken in a kitchen that smells like lemons and redirect. She started to say something about, boys will be boys. Claire said, Mom, please. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't apologize for believing me. Her mother looked at me and said, not unkindly, don't punish her forever for being someone I taught her to be. It was an odd relief to hear a sentence try to hold two truths. On a Thursday, I opened our shared closet and realized I didn't hate the sight of her blue dress anymore. On a Friday, she showed me a draft of an email she'd written to friends who'd been told an edited version. I lied. I called selfishness freedom. I'm trying to stop. She sent it. A few replied with love. One wrote, "We all make mistakes," which is something you say when you don't want to look at the shape. One wrote, "Proud of you," which is both a kindness and a misunderstanding of what pride should be used for. Nathan didn't disappear. Men like him rarely do. He angled for a new job in a different city. He posted quotes about rising above negativity. Once he accidentally texted Claire, "You'll come back to yourself," then followed it with, "Sorry, wrong person." She didn't reply. She blocked him and then unblocked to confirm blocking stuck. I watched her muscle memory try to call him during a bad day and then choose to call me instead and say nothing for a full minute because silence in the same room can be more intimate than any of her old performances. The internet never saw any of it because I refused to make it a show. I didn't send the pool photo to a group chat. I didn't DM Nathan's quotes with LOL. I didn't become the brand of guy whose pain requires an audience to feel valid. Pain can be true in a quiet kitchen. 3 months after Pinecrest, Claire and I took a weekend trip to the lake cabin she'd first refused. We brought books and heavy sweaters and the version of ourselves that has room for apology without the grand gesture. We sat on the dock with our feet in gray water and didn't talk for an hour. Then she said, "I'm sorry I used space like camouflage." I said, "I'm sorry I let politeness carry your bag." She laughed. I think we might be people now. It didn't feel like redemption. It felt like posture. But here's the part one don't want to spoil with a ribbon: trust didn't come back like a parade. It came back like a stray cat, skittish, hungry, offended by sudden movements. Some nights I still wake and reach for the drawer with evidence because fear doesn't believe in progress. Some mornings Claire still stares at her phone like it's a window she misses. We keep feeding the cat. We stop moving too fast. We tell the truth when it's boring and when it's small. I ask where she is and she tells me without making me feel like I'm the police. She asks how I'm feeling and I try to say something besides, "Fine." At our 6th counseling session, the counselor asked for a story about a time we stopped a script mid-scene. Claire said, "Last week, a coworker asked if I was going to Team Napa in the spring. I said no before my brain finished trying to be interesting. I said, yesterday, I wanted to look through her bag when she was in the shower. I didn't. I told her I wanted to, and she did not make me feel freakish." The counselor nodded like we discovered the mechanics of a small but necessary machine. That night, we ate takeout on the couch that knows both our weights. Claire said, "You could have left and you didn't. Part of me wishes you had so I could hate you for a simpler reason." I said, "Part of me wishes I had too." We looked at each other and didn't solve it. We turned on a documentary about ships. We held hands there in the dark because holding hands is still allowed even if you're not heroic. There was one more conversation I needed to have, the one I'd avoided because shame breeds silence and silence breeds repetition. I called Mark, the friend who thinks torque wrenches fix everything. We sat on his porch and I said, "I stayed. Does that make me weak?" He said, "If you'd stayed to be a rug, yes. If you stayed to make something harder than leaving, no." He added, "I'd have had your back either way," which is the kind of sentence you put in your pocket for later and rub when the room goes thin. If you're waiting for a public climax, me grabbing a microphone at a party and reading receipts, that isn't this story. I already did the brave public thing by the pool when I didn't slam a chair into the water and beg the sun to pick a side. The bravery I'm practicing now is less cinematic, washing dishes while we keep a promise to use our real voices, showing my face to friends who would have preferred a hero arc, sitting across from a woman I still love and asking her to choose me in rooms where nobody claps. The resort refund came through months later because I wrote a letter that used the right nouns and not one extra adjective. They credited the plus guest charge back to the card. The amount was small compared to what it cost, but it felt like a ledger learning manners. I took the money and bought a rug for the hallway because our old one made you trip if you walked too fast. Claire laughed when she almost tripped and then didn't. Symbolic, she said. Maybe it was. Maybe it was just a better rug. Sometimes I think about Nathan at our wedding, the way he clinked a glass and told me I'd won the jackpot. He meant her shine. He didn't know jackpots are taxed and the IRS always fines you. He didn't know the prize of marriage is not the glow but the habit of returning the same hands to the same table with the same flawed person and deciding, deliberately, to do the dishes without making it a sermon. I don't know the ending. We're in the middle, the unglamorous part where you either build or you decorate ruin. If you need a moral, I can't give you one without lying a little. I have a practice instead, when the old ache arrives, the one that tries to convince me that dignity equals silence and silence equals love. I go to the drawer with the folder named, If I Doubt Myself, I touch it without opening it, I remind the animal in my chest that we saw what we saw, and then I close the drawer and walk back into the room where my wife is reading. I ask what page she's on. She tells me. We keep choosing nouns that are true. We try to fix verbs that aren't. On the hardest nights, I still whisper the sentence I haven't outgrown, I don't know what to do. And then I do the next small right thing, move the rug back into place, set my phone face down without fear, ask her if she wants tea, tell her if I'm scared, because sometimes that's all a marriage is, two people carrying water to a fire they both started by accident and deciding, not grandly but every hour, to keep carrying.
Follow me for more stories.